So I find it funny that people don't know why we don't talk about ice in the Arctic. We talk about sea ice in the Arctic. And so, out of curiosity, I asked a couple of friends who I consider to be of average intelligence and should know. And they had no idea why we only talked about sea ice, why we don't talk about glaciers and ice accumulation and things like that in the Arctic. And I was kind of shocked. There's no land where the sea ice forms. That's why they call it sea ice. The average thickness can be sometimes as little as 2 feet, sometimes as much as 6 to 12. But you're talking about an average sea ice thickness between 4 and 6 feet. There's not much there. Basically, there's enough for the light to penetrate the ice, and then you have your algal growths, and that's the food chain. That is the food chain for the Arctic. There's no other source of, like for krill, things like this, animals that the other big animals rely on, they get all of their energy. It all starts with the alga. If you look under the ice, you'll see it's a brownish green sometimes when it's really thick. You know what I mean? It's kind of, yeah. I used to talk about ice all the time, and I kind of gave up on it the way I did with gaming. Was that, okay, so I get a few hundred views, but I'm really talking to myself. It's more of a therapy session than it is an information session because people don't want to hear about it. Just like the UFO phenomenon. People don't want to know the fucking truth. They don't. 80% of the population believes aliens exist, but they don't really want to know aliens exist. See? Greenland is land. The Antarctic is land. And this is why we have sometimes a miles thick fucking ice. Can you imagine how blue that is? Can you imagine how blue that ice is? The first time I watched Chasing Ice and they had that big calving event, like the largest one ever filmed, and my friends were like, they were blown away by the color of the ice at the bottom. I said, well, that's what ice looks like when all the air is squeezed out. I said, that shit is much denser than this white stuff up on top. That's more like whipped cream. This is more like an ice cube. Well, there's a lot of that on Greenland, and there's a lot of that in the Antarctic because we have land masses that can support those weights. I stopped talking about ice because really people just, they don't want to know. It's almost an abstract thought to them. They look at every picture they see of Greenland is fucking ice. And I studied ice for so many years that I saw it was going to be one of those subjects that I was going to waste my fucking time on. I didn't have the money, time, resources, or health to go out and place cameras around glaciers or do any kind of research work or even, sign up to get on a research vessel. I don't travel well. Yeah, it's just, I stopped talking about ice because people don't want to hear about it. They don't want to hear how much is melting. And then I try to explain to them that this is a chain. Ice is the very first fucking link in the chain of life on our planet. That ice is hanging. That's the hook of heaven, man. That is where that first fucking link in that chain is ice. Without floating sea ice, there is no food chain. We had, well, I think they reported 10 billion crabs starved to death. And they're like, oh, what happened? What happened to the crabs? How come the crabs all starved to death? Well, they weren't fucking eating, moron. I mean, Jesus, how stupid can you get? You see, this is oil companies and shit and rigmarole mixed in with the fucking truth to make it look like a goddamn stew. It's not. It's a burnt piece of fucking meat. It's burnt to the crisp, okay? This is, they want to fucking rigmarole everything into a fucking, no, listen, I'm telling you right now, the reason all those crabs fucking starved to death was because there were just not enough sea ice to support enough algae, to support enough krill, to support enough, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The base food chain. All food chains have a base source. Usually the sun, and then it goes from there. Some animals have animals living in them to do the conversions. Other animals, like trees, mammals, the whole fucking tree of life thing. Yeah. Shouldn't have to explain biology to you, okay? Without sea ice, there's no food chain. Without food chain, there's no fucking snow crab. I don't care how many boats you got or how much they stop limiting fishing on snow crab. You're going to get down to a population that's so small that you'll never be able to allow people to go hunt for red crab again, unless it's in like Norway or something. Okay? Not going to happen. Those animals are already looking for a better place to survive, someplace deeper. Deep, deep, deep cold water. They're finding new ways to survive. Life tends to do that, doesn't it? Huh? Ice on Iceland is so thick that when you see pictures of mountain ranges, that barely comes close. The ice on Iceland in some areas, you're talking about kilometers. We're 5 miles thick. We're talking about damn near as thick a ice as what you see 747s flying at in the sky. That's how thick that ice is. Now, we have animals that live in freshwater, we have animals that live in saltwater, and we have animals that live in brackish water. And the ones that live in brackish water, it's kind of the most of the species that I grew up with. They're very tolerant, okay? That's not how the majority of the food chain in the oceans works for the type of animals that produce food for human beings. They need a fucking saltwater environment. They need certain temperatures. Why? Well, because sardines live at certain temperatures. I mean, we're talking about the basic food chain, okay? That has to be maintained. If you fuck with the salinity level of the ocean, or like right now, where it's going through acidification because of the CO2 it's absorbing from our use. And when Greenland melts, the overturning current that is the AMOC that is in place now will cease. We have no fucking idea what's going to happen. There are computer models, but we really have no idea what is going to happen at that point. Okay? Diatoms. So when we acidify the ocean, we make it harder for the diatoms to form their shells. So we don't have as many diatoms. Look up diatom blooms, and you're going to see areas all over the world. Warm water, Atlantic, Pacific. There are species, and the number of diatoms is it's vast. The majority of the sand in the Sahel that blows over and fertilizes Brazil is old diatom bodies, not quartz. It's a big chain. It is truly the circle of fucking life. And we are chopping the shit out of it with machetes as fast as we can. We're looking for the weakest point. We're going to find it. I'll tell you what the weakest point is, right? Is that we're fucking gullible. And we want we want what we want, and we want it now. And we let billionaires lie to us. We let oil companies lie to us. We let them lie to us because the evidence is there that they've been lying. And I always talk about the day when the shit hits the fan and people go, "Oh, you've killed us. What's going to happen?" Okay, the fucking deniers, the climate deniers, those fucking people, they're going to be hunted down by fucking raging groups of fucking people. I fear for them, man. There's going to come a day when people understand they've killed us, and then they'll try to get back all their money and prison terms, and it's not going to stop anything that's happening. It'll be too late. Once we reach these tipping points, we're fucked. Because it goes clunk clunk and falls over to this side. And that's it. You need something else, some sort of force that's going to bring this back the other way. That's going to have to be man-made too. I can guarantee you, if we intend on surviving, because things will just get worse from there. And we're talking about geologic time spans is how shit happens here. Okay, we're not going to just survive in bunkers for 25, 50,000 years. All those crabs starve to death because there's no fucking food. Penguins in the Antarctic are starving to death because there's no fucking food. I mean, it's so obvious that everything is collapsing and falling apart as the government still has fucking politicians out there willing to say climate change still isn't a science. Oh my fucking God. You talk about me living in a terrified fucking state at all times, understanding the truth at all times. That's why you don't have to be smart to know what's going on. You just have to be able to add. 80% of our oxygen comes from diatoms. When was the last time you heard anyone do a special or anyone talk about or any 6 o'clock news, 12 o'clock news, fucking Jehovah's Witness channel? I don't give a fuck what it is. When was the last time you heard someone talking about diatoms supplying 80% of our oxygen other than right fucking here? Maybe if you expressed it to people in a way they could understand that the atmosphere is what's caused most extinctions on the planet, maybe people would wake up just a little bit sooner. Not that we've already passed tipping points, so we're kind of fucked, really. The world is going to change over the next 100 years to a point that people now wouldn't fucking recognize it. Not just physically, but socially. Okay, really. If not my grandkids, but my great-grandkids like Ollie, okay? This property that we own, it's above the water line. It's below the fucking freezing line. And this is where they'll be growing food in buildings. This is my prediction, by the way, in case anyone wants to write it down. They'll be growing food in buildings. The entire upper part of Northern California, circling the entire mountain range at certain altitudes, will be high-rise farms, climate-controlled farms, where they're going to be growing all of our food. Food chains. As long as we don't destroy our seed crop, as long as we don't destroy those species that we need to live on, because humans can live on a vegetarian diet. Not as well. It's not easier to evolve. I mean, but because meat's an extra energy source. Food change. That's where it's at. People just don't take it seriously. They don't fucking take it seriously. Melting ice just isn't going to flood out all the rich people in fucking Florida. It's going to destroy whole economies. The entire fucking Bay Area is going to be change. Fucking Beijing, underwater. India. There are places where the change will be so profound that it's going to cause social upheavals that haven't been ever written about in history books yet. So the size and the scale of what is coming is just staggering to me. You see, I seriously, not that I doubt it, because there probably is. So because you need to know thy enemy and know thyself. Okay, but there are probably think tanks out there that understand everything I'm telling you is 100% true, and they are planning for that time to come. Here's where we invest our money. Here's why we buy up this property. Here's why we move from here. Here's why we. And they're probably being paid hundreds of millions of dollars a year to inform fucking billionaires what to do with their assets before it's too late. I could form that company fucking tomorrow. First thing I'd do is hang up a shingle in Florida. Diatoms. People who've been here on the gamers page especially, they've heard me just pound about diatoms because that's the air we breathe. It's not fucking trees. Every fucking oil company in the world wants to make you think they can plant their fucking way out of trouble. And I can tell you right now that we are cutting down way more fucking trees than we're ever planting. The entire Sierra Nevada is empty of fucking trees if you care to look. Now, you can plant all the motherfucking trees you want, okay? And that is not going to provide enough oxygens for humans and other animal life to survive. People talk, oh, the Amazon. There is 1% of the oxygen produced in the Amazon would be considered free for other use. 1%. The rest is used up by the life forms that live there. So go on. Tell me about the fucking rainforest, Brazil, oxygen. When you hear those people, they don't know what the fuck they're talking about. Or they're simply misguided by money to go do research that's inconsequential for the future of mankind, in my opinion, in my humble fucking opinion, okay? The reason life has evolved on our planet has always been because of the little animals, not the big ones. We're actually the first big animal to transform the atmosphere in any meaningful way to affect the fucking planet, other than micro creatures, diatoms. Man, we are truly fucked. What are we going to do about it? I'm going to die not knowing. I'm going to leave this world not knowing, and then I will know. That's the only plus to this part here. On my last day, I will know. I'll see what's going to happen to the planet simply by asking. Where people are going to move, how concentrations of humans are going to reassemble. Will this reassembled humanitarian shape on the planet, will it allow the past to continue? Will it allow 1% of that population to own fucking everything and to command all the others to work for them? Will they allow, religion? Will they allow humans to have more than they need? I'm curious. First questions I'll ask. Will they learn any fucking thing, or will they go on to just start human fuck up part 2, right? Here we go again, whatever the title of the fucking thing is, you know what I mean? I think I'll start producing a few more videos back on the gamers page. God, that AI was just torturing me, man. That son of a bitch just couldn't wait to get a hold of me. It was going back years for shit. It's like, damn. Fuck me, man. So maybe I'm going to do a few more. That was my main ice channel, to tell you the truth. Was that we need air to breathe. We can figure out how to grow food. We can figure out to live with different temperatures. We can even figure out maybe how to do without protein from the sea. But as far as I know of, there's no way for us to overcome an atmosphere that doesn't have enough oxygen in it. I don't know of any way. I don't. Yeah. Sorry, I had to talk about this today. You see, I'm looking for a movie that should have been like very popular in theaters, but people didn't want to see it. They looked at the spectacle of it and went, oh, wow. And then that was it. Climate change once again left their fucking, lobotomized minds and just went to fucking TikTok or something. Had to talk about it. It's important. You do know why sea ice is important, at least now. You understand what diatoms do and that they make our oxygen. And if I just say that enough times, it makes me feel better. Because then maybe you'll actually go look for yourself and go, holy fuck, diatoms make 80% of the oxygen we breathe, not trees. And then you'll tell someone else, and maybe they'll get a curious thought. Okay, that's how it's supposed to work in theory.